On first, I told Betsy and John they picked the wrong people to do this. So divide the room. Craig, that side, you're that side. You got it. So watch the hand, please. If I go this way, you go ha. If I point to you, you go ho.
Ha!
Oh, come on, where's that?
Ha! Oh! Ha!
Watch the hand.
Oh! Ha! 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 Oh! Ha! Oh!
Very good. That's a good
You
one.
obviously figured that I'm an easy, soft touch here.
Hey, thank you. Get us going. So we got to introduce each other. And to do that, well, let me first explain this card. On the bottom left is your tour group. That's who you go with. Okay, our leaders are the vice president and the president of the foundation. So who's the pink? On the left. Raise your card if you're pink on the left. Who's left? My left. Your card left.
If you're looking.
The card.
Card left.
I can't see the front.
The card. Okay. So you're in that. Will signify what group you are with when we take a tour. So the one on the right, well, who you eat supper with. Okay. I kind of mixed it up a little so we not always in the same group. That makes sense to everybody. Thank you. So don't lose that. So now we got to introduce ourselves. Anybody afraid of catching the ball?
No, I just want to move my
when you do
coffee
this-
though.
Smelling my coffee.
When you do this, always make sure some person doesn't want to catch. So make them first and hand them the ball. Boy, you are eager, Keith. That's good. So, like if you have a blind person or visually impaired person, make sure you just don't throw the ball at them. Some people are afraid to catch the ball for some reason. So to introduce ourselves, you have to have an adjective, positive adjective, that starts with your first name, like mine is G. So, and then I go grateful, Gary. Now I'll say what club I'm from, Pine Bluffs Lions Club. Is that hard to do?
Yes.
Ted? Good, Ted.
Full cup of coffee there. Terrific, Ted. Pleasant View Lions.
Very good. Welcome,
Okay.
Ted.
Okay, now I get to throw it to someone. Okay,
I usually say their name and then.
yeah, I was gonna go with Kenneth here.
Kindness Ken, Poudre Valley Lions Club, Fort Collins.
Hey, welcome, Ken.
Sally,
Silly Sally from the Denver Lions Club.
Welcome, welcome, Silly Sally.
There you go.
And I was like, D's not very good. Dynamic to know. And so I'm from Cotopaxi.
Welcome.
Ready?
Studious Steve, and I say that because I'm always studying your budget. And I'm from the I can't even think of the name of my own Lions Club right now.
I'm glad we're doing some exercise.
Chatfield Lions Club. Okay, Kevin.
Welcome.
John Harper. Let's see, I'm Joyful John. Cheyenne Sunrise Lions Club.
where are you
I'm
going?
gonna go to Wayne, or to Bob, I'm sorry.
I'm bashful Bob Johannes
I don't think so.
Not hardly.
from the Fraser River Valley Lions Club, the largest Lions club in Colorado.
Yes.
Here you
Super.
go, Craig.
Curious, Craig, Gillette Lions Club, Gillette, Wyoming. See who's left.
Wonderful Wayne, and from the Redlands Lions Club. I think we're the second biggest.
You're almost second.
Brilliant, Betsy. From Cotopaxi Lions Club.
I think Dave's the last one.
Diligent Dave, Cheyenne Sunrise Lions Club, Cheyenne, Wyoming. Everybody?
That's it.
Yeah.
Oh, Mike. Mike, you're part of the group. No.
Gotta try Lions Club.
Magnificent Michael.
Okay, that's ghosting. I was gonna say mysterious.
Oh.
Not a lion. I work for the University's Advancement Office, and I work with the Eye Institute. Nice to meet some of you for the first time today, but some of you have already gotten to know.
I want to know why you're not a lion yet.
Because I haven't sucked it in
I was
yet.
going to say,
I got it.
Central better
Come on,
get to
silly
work.
Sally.
I got him to the.
Otherwise, he can come down to Southeast. We would take him in a heartbeat. He's
Hey,
mine.
thank you. So,
Oh,
Ah.
oh,
there, you got it. In other words, you are awesome!
Thank you, Gary.
Now to our president, John Harper.
Do you want me to get my thing out?
I bought mine too.
I did too. I mean, I got one at the forum last year.
I am in hopes you'll be able to hear me fine if I'm seated. I'm the person in the group that's, let's see, Ken was around when this was first formed.
Yeah,
And
1990.
Sally was around when this was first formed. And I think that's the extent, of people that have been involved with the Eye Institute one way or another since the very beginning. But my task is to cover a little bit of the history and what our relationship is with the university. I may need to chip in a little bit when we get more towards the end as to, from the institute itself as to what their viewpoint is on things. I think all of you are aware that the Denver Lions Club was a part of the original forming of Lions Clubs International, and was a large club at one time, had lots of people that were significant people in the world of lions. And in 1987, they were celebrating their 70th anniversary. And their international guest for that was Austin Jennings from Tennessee, who was first vice president of Lions Clubs International at the time. And he talked to them about what he was seeing in other parts of the country about eye institutes and vision centers and so on to that nature. And that struck a chord with some key people. Sally may be able to help me fill in some names, but Steve Kinney was the main one among the group that took the lead. There was Applebaum and Bob Sweeney and Nussman. Anyhow, there was a group of people out of the club that they thought this was a fantastic idea. And what they learned was that to have an eye institute or even any kind of a medical institute, that it has to have three essential components. And those would be that they need to have research, they need to have education, and they need to have patient care. And because of that, they need to be housed either in a medical training facility or they need to be in a university, a medical school, of a university. So with that, they approached Dr. Nelson, who was the chancellor of the University of Colorado Health Sciences Center. Keep in mind that at that time, this was all located downtown Denver off of Colorado Boulevard and 11th Street. And they were in a building that was built probably in the 50s. It's been imploded since then. The equipment in it was the original equipment from the building. And if I remember right, there were 4 ophthalmologists in the group. Dr. Ellis was the director of the Department of Ophthalmology. Anyhow, it was when they approached him is that they found out that the university had already explored the possibility of doing an eye institute with other organizations that had not come into fruition and, wasn't failing. And because the Lions came and with our history of being involved with with eye in general, that was our calling from Helen Keller's challenge and so on, is that they were excited about partnering with us. So it was at that time that even though that was an exciting idea for the Denver Lions Club, was they realized that one Lions Club could not pull that off. And they sought out people from both Wyoming and Colorado that were key players that had been like district governors or international directors and so on to become involved in this. And in the original Articles of Incorporation, many of you knew Tom Tolliver, is that his signatures on our original Articles of Incorporation. And anyhow, it's just that, I don't know, for somehow or other, that, even though I've been around a long time, is that when I was reading the articles and got to the last page where the signatures were, is that I knew Tom had been involved, but I didn't realize that there was just 3 signatures and his was one of them.
Yeah.
Steve Kenny was one, and I can't remember right now what the third one was. May have been Bill Wendland from Wyoming, but anyhow, it's that we were structured and,
John?
yes.
Steve's got a
Are we allowed to ask questions?
Yes.
Okay. There are actually 2 articles of incorporations that are filed with the Secretary of State. It was originally, we were founded as the Rocky Mountain Lions Eye Institute.
Correct, and then the
Foundation.
Rocky Mountain Lions Eye Institute Foundation.
Right, and it seemed to be just a change.
Anyhow, is that in 1991, the partnership, between the 2 states and all of our Lions clubs, that's when they formed the Eye Institute. And then in October of the same year, 1991, is when they formed a memorandum, they formed the Rocky Mountain Lions Eye Institute Foundation, and then also formed a memorandum of agreement with CU Health Sciences Center, to which we committed $6 million. And at that time, this building could have been built for $6 million. Right now, the last figure that Dr. Mandava quoted was well over $100 million as to what the building is valued at this point in time. So, so we started to work, at raising money. We were told from the beginning that it would take us, 9 or 10 years to raise the money. It took us 10 years, and and as I said, that we, with inflation, in that time period, $12 million. So they still accepted, that we had made the commitment, and that the building would still remain with our name on it and so on, and even though we were only paying for half of the building instead of all of the building. One of the things that was interesting is when we were raising money, there were 2 significant things that happened. One was that Mayor Wellington Webb said in Denver that he did not want the university to expand onto the west side of Colorado Boulevard. If you go down Colorado Boulevard at the corner of 11th and Colorado Boulevard, there's an Einstein Bagels. That was where we were going to build the Eye Institute. And when Webb said not going across, that blocked us from doing that. So then we looked at things on the on the campus area itself, and Rose Medical Center was the possibility that we could buy their building and refurbish it. And at the same time, Fitzsimmons was vacated as an Army base and given to the University of Colorado. And where we could have been the last building on the old campus is that we lucked out that we became the first building on the new campus. Because we were sitting there, and for the transaction to happen, everything was kind of in the air. And we volunteered that we would give a partial payment because we had a couple million already in the bank, that by us giving the $2 million up front, that helped cement the deal that created this whole campus. And we have much to be proud for about, what happened there. During that same time period is that Dr. Ellis was getting ready to retire as head of the department, and the department was so very proud that they were able to attract a woman named Bronwyn Bateman from the Jewel Stein Eye Institute, and she became the director until 2005. And she was the type of person and saw the role. And when we created, as you're talking about Article of Incorporation and so on, is that her vision of what the Eye Institute, how it would operate and so on, was a little different than where our structure is today, in that she became fully engaged with the Lions. As a Lion, But she would go to individual club meetings. She went to all of the district conventions, the state conventions. Back in that time, Wyoming was still had 2 districts. So she actually traveled and went to that, and she would bring along with her staff, and then she would make presentations, and we would find people that were perhaps donors outside of Lions that we would go and make presentations to. I was asked to join the board at that time as an appointee. They told me we would have quarterly meetings, and because we were hard pressed to raise the money, that became 2 weeks at a time between committee meetings and our regular meetings. So it was a little more than I'd signed up for, but it's obviously I enjoyed that.
Did Bronwyn Bateman come here in part because of the presence of the Eye Institute, or the knowledge that it was going to be built? Was that
Right.
before?
She helped us get, she was the one that was the director at the time the building was built. And in a little bit, I was asked Dave if maybe he'd put up a picture back in the days. Anyhow, it's that, yeah, it's just that she saw her role, is that if we were going to build a building, that she joined with the Lions, to be the, to help be the fundraiser for it. And then after it was built, well, she remained the director as it grew. And then, like I said, it was, I think it was 2005 that she stepped down, and that Dr. Mandava became the director at that time. And since then, is that under his leadership, is that, this has all happened. Coming over here to the Fitzsimmons facility is that it was interesting, is that the historic building that's off behind here is the old Fitzsimmons Hospital. The room where President Eisenhower was when he had a heart attack in Denver is still there. It's as a museum. It's an Art Deco building. It has beautiful, wrought iron and melt glass and all this kind of stuff. And that's where we used to have our trustee meetings, is in an auditorium over there. So that, where we'd been meeting in the building downtown prior to that. And that's why we were watching this building get built. And because we were the first in line with some money, to make things happen, is that Dr. Bateman and a couple others and I were invited to sit in on all the architectural plans. So I came down here regularly to meet with the architect, and the floor coverings, the wall coverings, the stone that's on the outside of these buildings and stuff. I was at all the meetings where all those decisions were made. Keep in mind, we were the first building on this campus that set the standard for the rest of the campus. Even the signage that's on the walls and stuff is that we were involved in deciding that, what our recognitions were going to look like. That's what they would look like in every building on campus and stuff. So we've been, grossly involved, at the beginning. Yes.
If anybody's interested in looking at old pictures, I did dig up some. And if you go to our website on the history page, you'll see pictures. One picture, I think, of construction, and a couple pictures of the building as it existed right after it was completed.
Dave, if you could go to that one picture, I'll hit it now. After I had put together my thoughts, and a lot of my thoughts are already in writing. They're either on the web page for the University of Colorado's Department of Ophthalmology, or they're on our own web page. But I found a flash drive that had some pictures that a former president had taken, a president of our organization had taken. And if I may, I guess if all of our contracts that were written and so on, is that the gentleman, and he's on the left, that's Bob Fry. And I don't know if Bob's still alive.
I was trying to remember whether he has.
I don't think so.
I would, it's been several years ago that he had to kind of drop out of the picture because of his health. Then we talked about Dr. Bateman. She's the lady there in the kind of burnt orange. Then Bob Sweeney, many of you know Bob Sweeney. He was very instrumental in our initial funding. And you would think I could remember the exact amount, but the Kendall King Foundation if it hadn't been for him being the president of the Kendall King Foundation, we would have never raised the money that we needed to raise. We are terrible, terrible, terrible fundraisers. Anyhow, the Kendall King Foundation, if I remember, right, was 2.5 million.
Start like this.
Anyhow, is that, and it was truly because of his interest and his influence on that. And the Kings were what, a savings and loan, I think is where their revenue came from originally. And anyhow, it's that he's still interested in what's going on here. And then the gentleman that's on the far right, I don't know who's standing next to that, where that pole's behind him. But the gentleman that's to the right is Tony Reese, that was the architect for the building. And next picture. From Wyoming, well, when I joined the board, the gentleman, the portly good man there on the left, that was Roger, I think that his first name Cousins, he's from Greeley.
Roger Cousins, really.
And he was the president when we went through a lot of trying to get our money together and so on that way. The lady in black with the red under neck, that's Joyce DiPaolo from Casper, and her husband Camille DiPaolo standing next to her. And of course, they're listening to Ronald make some comments. We're out in the dirt. The building wasn't here yet when these pictures were taken. Anyhow, it's that we started meeting at the same time that the iBank board meets, because Joyce was on our board and Camille was on the iBank board. And we've had several situations over the years where that's been the case, as to where we've had spouses on the two boards and we've had our meetings at the same time together. Next picture, I guess. Ooh, we talked about Harold Hine, and most of you on the right-hand side, the gentleman in front with the brown, the jacket, yeah, there. That's Harold. And actually, I don't think he looked any different, at the time that he passed away than when he looked back then. This would be back in, 1989 or so. But look at the brown suit dude. That's Naresh. And he had just, I don't know, he was here, when the building was being built. So he was one of the ophthalmologists here, but, and then he became our director. There's another ugly guy in behind Harold. I think it's the next one over though, Dave. Maybe not, he's got too much gray hair for that time.
I was thinking because of the hairline.
Yeah, anyhow, I never have had much hair on top, but at least it was brown once upon a time. Next picture. That's a picture of Tony Reese. That's definitely me next to him in that picture. Anyhow, those were pictures that were on, there's a whole raft of pictures, and that's Dr. Bateman and Bob Fry, the attorney. Dr. Bateman is out in California, and after she left here, she became president of the Pan American Association of Ophthalmology. Has been heavily involved with them. I brought an article with me. She's recently given $250,000 to that organization to do sponsorship of scholarships for women in ophthalmology in Latin America. So she's still out there doing things. So much for digressing from my notes. We have a timekeeper today. I don't know if Ken's,
You got 5 minutes left.
Okay, so.
4.5, no.
Okay. During the time the building was being built, we were the first building, and that's when the Anschutz family became involved in this campus. They built a cancer center right next door to us. Money with inflation to build operating rooms or to build a wet research lab. So this building was built without those. We used the operating rooms next door. In about 2013, we started raising money again because they wanted to expand this building. The original building was built like a wedding cake, and we tiered up, so we could do 5 floors. So it's now 5 stories, but instead of using the original footprint, they went out into the parking lot. If we were outside in the original building, we would be clear past the sidewalks out in the asphalt. We raised another, the first commitment was $6 million. We did another $1,300,000. Then again, in 2020, this new building had shell space to be filled out, so we contributed another $300,000 that furnished 6 rooms with their equipment. And almost everything that we've given to the university has been the things that we've done, but most of our gifts have been to buy equipment, and it's because under Lions Club's International Foundation, we can match that 50-50. So a lot of the things that we've done was that we've gone for grants, and it makes it interesting because those grants have been complicated enough is that we at one time had 2 districts in Wyoming, 4 districts down here, and the council could do, so there was 7 grants at a time to do a project, and that became challenging at times. So our original contract with the gift was with the University of Colorado's Department of, their foundation. Then that was turned over to Colorado Hospital because it moved from downtown and they built their building out here, and the ownership of this building transferred to them. It's now UC Health, but our contract has been forwarded on to those. Steve and I have some questions. We're going to talk to some people later on about that. Anyhow, there's still shell space. 5th floor is totally undeveloped in this building right now. So at some point in the future, we'll be able to move forward. The bottom line is that none of us are doctors. None of us know how to run this place. And it's the university that actually staffs, and runs the patient services. Keep in mind, there's the education component. We're kind of ignorant on that part of it. But that I know that the doctor that I go to in Cheyenne was trained here. And, which brings it home to me that all of what we've accomplished down here actually affects me directly, in my home provision. So the bargain with them was that we would furnish the money, the building would be built, have our name on it, that it would be the responsibility of the university then to equip it to, the parts that we couldn't, because obviously, our money isn't the biggest that there is, but the simple fact is that we got all of this stuff started, and now the university and Dr. Bandava and so on has moved forward to build it into what it is now. I don't know if there's a staff number now. Is that at the time I talked about there were 4 ophthalmologists. I assume there's probably at least medical professionals in the building. There's maybe 60 or 70. And then total employees is that there's also some PhDs, and then as well as staff, that there's probably around 120 employees in the building. And they obviously are all employed by the university or the department. Once again, is that our relationship, is at this point in time is that we are involved in that. We're a funding stream. Our name's on the building. We have committee within our group that's working, and we'll see as the day progresses, is that we're trying to identify, where our future should be. Where we bought just equipment and so on. To me, the gorilla in the room is an empty floor, but we would like to see where there's other avenues that might be have the buzz and zing, that would help us be more successful in being able to help the institute and to be able to be successful in our fundraising. We've been asking for equipment money since 1989. There's probably a few years that goes deaf on by now, and so we're looking for ways that we can enhance that. I don't know if you want to say anything else about, from your perspective as to our relationship, with the department and what you hear. I know that you will be next up to talk about Dr. Mandava and your visit, and that you could be in there.
Sure. I think the Lions have been absolutely critical to the development of the Eye Institute, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit and give some examples of how the support has put to use and what that has meant for the Eye Institute's programs as a whole. And we also have a video from Dr. Mandava where he's going to talk about that as well. So I'm happy to just wait until we speak.
Okay. One of the things that I mentioned, is that Steve called me, I don't know what, I think it was after you got back from vacation, but that he had seen some old pictures, but it wasn't our building. And the simple fact is, it was our building. The original building, this building that we're in now surrounds the original building. There's a staircase, out this door and on the right down here by the glass cabinet. That staircase was to be out on the front side of the old building. And it was the architecture of it was that it was a tower and it had a curved roof on it that made it very unique and distinct and well seen from Colorado or from Colfax. And even Dr. Mandava now is a little perturbed, is that we need the parking, but there's a 7-story parking ramp going out here, and you will no longer be able to see our building from out on Colorado or Colfax. So, the slides that I had him show people out of all of the pictures of this building, the original building, were from when it was under construction. I didn't have a picture of the final building. Apparently, Dave might be able to find us one here, but anyhow, I don't know, I've been here since the beginning of time. I was the director of Medicaid for the state of Wyoming. It seemed very natural to me to become involved here because we were sending kids to the Wells Eye Institute in Philadelphia from Wyoming because we don't have medical school. That was the closest place that we could get kids to have treatment. So my passion for this place, so that you're well aware, is that we could send kids to Denver instead of to Pennsylvania. And the other thing is that one of the first kids that got treated had poked I can't remember if it was a pencil or a screwdriver through their eye, and this outfit saved their eye and they can see out of it. And for me, all of the effort I put into this, that one kid's worth it. So when I get up, stand on the chair and cheer for things, where I'm coming from.
John, could you and Betsy explain the binder before we move on and how it's set up?
We're ahead of the time right now.
Yeah.
Betsy and I coordinated on who was going to print what, but obviously the very first page is the agenda in all of your binders except one, and there's no prize for the one that's different, but I didn't get a duplex. You actually have a 2-page agenda. About our directory, and but if you hadn't printed it out, I thought that having one handy for you in your book was a good idea. You'll notice on the second page that our agenda for our meetings will be is on there and where they will be. So our next meeting's in October, middle of October, then we go to January. And then there's a change from those of you that have your calendars marked that we were going to be the first weekend in April in Wyoming, is that it's actually the week after Easter in Cody, Wyoming. That's a long ways away from here. Pardon?
21st then?
No, it's the April
14th.
15th will be our membership meetings. 14th and 15th of April. It's on the back side of your directory.
I just didn't get a number.
Hey, Ken,
I think
so just turn this page over. It's on the reverse side of the listing of the members of the board.
Okay.
Those are the meetings for the coming year.
We will have to talk about, because that's about as far away from here as you can get and still be in the 2 states. We'll talk about, it gets closer to that as to how much we can help with expenses from the board. But I would encourage you that Cody has an outstanding museum.
It does.
It's a 2-day museum. Plan your trip accordingly for your personal time. Start marking your calendar now and thinking about that. And also, figure out how to take a side trip to Du Bois, Wyoming, because one of the top 10 museums in the United States is there now. It's only a year old and it's already
Military
rated that high.
history.
Oh, that was.
Military.
That's what I
Museum.
missed.
I also put, in the next page, there's also the agenda again, and an agenda that was, or a calendar that was out before spelled out, at least the executive committee meeting times, as I just put in there, that we're going to quarterly meetings. We, committees are going to have to do a lot of work in between time, where we did work at the board meetings before. And that board meetings are going to need to be to receive reports, vote on actions that need to take and that kind of thing. But the work's going to have to be done in the committees. So it will be up to the committees, the committee chairs to organize that. I put confidential policy statement in the next one so that you would have the confidentiality policy in your book. But inside the front page is the one that you need to sign and we collect before we leave today, so that we have signed confidentiality statements from everybody. We do that annually. You signed them and gave them to me, and then you didn't have it in your hand if you wanted to look at, so now you do. We talked at our last meeting and figured out what looked like should be our committees and who should be there, and assigned the chairs for each of the committees. The one that I didn't know how to really deal with is Wayne. I have no idea what your interest might be, but we need your help on the finance committee where Ed has left us, that I would like you to serve on that committee, so I put that on
I really
here.
don't have any finance part. I've been
Okay.
working with Bob on programs and stuff.
Okay, anyhow, that's negotiable.
Okay.
Okay. Then, in what used to be called the trustee manual, we hired a consultant in the waybacks that helped us put together what we call the case statement, so that we would have something in our hand to go out for grants and be able to say, this is who we are, this is how we operate, and so on. That ends up being somewhat a valuable tool in the fact that it's, it tells a lot about us. Some of the history that I just talked about is in that, but also as part of that is our bylaws. And when I quick look through what we got copied into there, I think that they include the discussion we had a couple of meetings ago, so that they're current. Then behind that is our business plan, and we spent actually more than a year developing what we consider our business plan. That is the important document to read. That's something that each of our board meetings in particular that we need to look at and see where we're at in it, because there's time frames in it. There's a Gantt chart at the back of it that is first the one that was designed with the original plan, but then we updated it after further discussion. So we updated the chart, and anyhow, is that we will need to hold ourselves to the task. The executive committee has one that's due in September. That will be a challenge still to meet, but we'll be working with Michael. He'll solve the problems for us, and will be wonderful. But anyhow, that's what's in that page. And then I discovered, I'd forgotten, but the first page, it doesn't take pictures and stuff, but when you go into the Department of Ophthalmology's webpage, is that there's an introduction about their history and so on. And the next couple pages are what's actually on the University of Colorado's Department of Ophthalmology webpage about the Lions. And it's on the very front page of theirs. It's on their home page. But you still have to know what you're looking for, because over in their community settings is that it identifies their history as well as the Lion history. So that's what's on their webpage. The one behind that is what I've tucked from this morning, so that you would have some notes for what I talked about this morning. So that's what's in the book. hang on to your books, because I think there's things that, you know, that you need to have as trustees that we will add to it over time period. I'm thinking in terms, you know, like for the executive committee, you know, each of those members should probably have the copies of their contracts. Our finance committee, we need to make sure that you and your committee have copies of things like our bulk rate mailing and our 501c3 documents, all of those kinds of things. I don't know if everybody wants all of those, but we certainly can make it so that everybody's manual has that, so that they have that knowledge or access to that information. So that's what's in the book, Bob. The other thing is that the envelopes, Scott has a printing company, and he had printed some letterhead for us before. I needed more, and I wanted to have, there are times, you know, when instead of like a photocopy of our letterhead and a quick message on it to somebody is just fine, but there's times you want to write somebody where it looks very formal and it's got a nice piece of letterhead and an envelope. So I had him print enough so that I could give everybody a small supply. I would use them, you know, for especially if somebody's, you know, even a club was giving a sizable gift, or if there's somebody that shows recognition or whatever, that you have a decent piece of paper to write on. The other thing is, I think everybody has polo shirts, hopefully they're right size, and everybody has name tags. So.
I might make a comment about the letterhead. Every gift that we've received is written on this letterhead, if I have a snail mail address for it. Sometimes I only have an email address because they donated over the web. And so.
Okay. The other thing I point out is being our post office box. So if you're wanting to, you know, have your own address on there, you need to add it, you know, depending on how you're using that stuff. Otherwise, if there's a response to whatever you send out, well, he will answer it in the post office box. We ran into all sorts of difficulty a couple of years ago because mail was going every which direction. So our policy is that anything that's official mail has to do with our foundation. Our post office boxes are official place, you know, that especially a lot of our legal documents. I mean, we had different people's home addresses and all that. So we think we are on top of that now. We still ahead of time, Ken?
Yep.
Oh, great.
John,
Yes.
why don't you explain, especially to the new people, the difference between the annual trustee meeting
Okay.
and the annual membership meeting? Because one takes place the day before the other, and next year it's up in Cody.
Yes. Okay. In our structure, in our bylaws and so on, we clearly identify that all Lions in Colorado and Wyoming are members of the Rocky Mountain Lions Eye Institute Foundation. They all have a right to vote on like officers and so on. That is done at the annual membership meeting, you know, where members are there. We do that usually during the general session of in Colorado, the multi-district convention. In Wyoming, we're a single district, is our, and we rotate years. The I-Bank and the I-Institute, we take turns being, you know. So next year, we'll be in Cody for our membership meeting, and this last year it was in Colorado. Hopefully, we won't have another year where the Colorado and Wyoming conventions are the same weekend, because that created a problem this year. Is that
Talk to the man.
We're not conflicting.
Yeah, we're not.
You're in
conflict.
April, we're in May.
The latest is that we're going to be the second week in June in 24, which is real late, you know. So in Wyoming, anyhow. So that's the membership meeting. Now, we, as a board of trustees, also have an annual meeting each year. And during that meeting, business that's right related to the board, we elect our own officers, and do, any other business, but mainly the election of our officers, the key reason, that we have. And the way our structure is that, like when we get to Cody, this group will vote on who the new officers are going to be. If there is a new member elected to join our group, for this next year, it's after that. It's like we were in Riverton, Ken joined us on a video, but he listened to our meeting up to the point where we voted for officers, and then after that, he officially became a member of our board. So then we were able to welcome him onto our board, at that time. But it's the existing group that votes for our officers, and then the new members join us at that time. It also requires that we precede the membership meeting. So, but at the district convention. So we try to do our meeting, within a week. And this last year we did it a week ahead, but that was because we were in 2 different locations. But we're in the same places that in Cody. Probably on that Friday we'll have our trustee meeting, and on Saturday will be the membership meeting. Totally mud clear.
Well, that was good, but we could also decide that if the majority of people can't get up to Cody, that the annual trustee meeting could be down here in Denver,
Or could be.
so that more people could actually attend that. So, but I just wanted you
Right.
to talk about that distinction between
And I
the
think
two.
everybody's aware, that we're elected by your district to serve. The other thing is that our officers in our bylaws are not required to be trustees. So in my case, I'm no longer a trustee, but I'm your president. And Sally is a vice president from Colorado, but she term limited last year, so she's no longer a trustee. The rest of you are trustees who are either elected in your district or you were appointed by the district governor. And while I'm thinking about that, I need a letter from you about Craig, and you still need I haven't gotten a letter from your district governor yet. I know that he's been asked for one, but just for the record's sake, that, that you are officially appointed to be the trustees from your districts.
I guess. Chuck, so when is the Cody convention?
It's on the sheet there. It's April 14 and 15.
Okay, you said something about mid-June, and that confused me.
That's in 2024.
Oh, okay.
It's ahead of time. That's unusual for me.
Well, we started early.
Yeah.
Actually, we started half hour early.
Okay.
Well,
that'll give us more time to check into the hotel.
Oh, okay.
May I ask Steve a question? Steve, are we financially registered with the federal government? And the reason why I ask is $1,000 grant to our county commissioners through the ARP. And one thing is, I had to work with my Lions Club with the federal government, with IRS.
Well, your Lions Club should be registered with the state of Colorado, I believe. And
He's in Wyoming.
Wyoming, I had, federal government, I had
And
to,
then you need to file a 990 as a Lions.
I already done that.
Okay, I
To
think
get
that-
this grant, because it's a federal grant, that our county commissioner received so much money from the ARPA money. So they decided that they'd take some of that and give it to nonprofit organizations because of COVID. So I applied for our club, got $4,000, but I had to have all this stuff in order. One was identity number with the IRS.
And employer identification number?
Sam.gov.
Yes.
Yeah, are we there?
We, as RMLEIF, yes.
Our
We
county
are- We are a 501c3, which means that we had to apply to the government back in the 1990s, send in our articles of incorporation, have them approved as being consonant with the requirements for 501c3. And we have maintained that with one little interlude where we forgot to
I had to
refile.
become a 501c, and I had.
Right, we are a 501c3, which means that contributions to us are tax deductible. 501c4s, not so.
So I went through all that last year.
Yeah, okay.
For our club, they get a $4,000 grant. It's for eye care, but
Yeah, and the fact that we are a 501c3 that was approved based on a submission of our bylaws and of our articles of incorporation constrains us to some extent when we, if we were to revise, that is, if we revised them in a way that was not consonant with what with law, there would be a problem.
and I just know there's federal grants out there now because of the ARPA. Something that we might look at in the future. I don't know.
I had not even thought about that possibility. Yeah.
We need to take a pause for the cause and be back on schedule at 11 o'clock.
I'm going to the bathroom.
Appears that we have a request to take a quick break and then.
I just noticed several people leaving now. Became urgent.
So we gonna take a break?
We'll take a break. Well,
Yeah. 11?
Well,
be back at 11, it's 8 minutes.
Hey, Craig?
The video, I think, is next, so if you want to set that up. Is there a way to put your video on one screen and me on the other? Or I'll just flash down where I'm going to use one screen.
Yeah.
And then,
Okay. I want to set up forward for you.
one of the screens.
I can reset your account. Maybe what I'll do is try and work with Wayne, if that works for him. I'm trying to set you up.
Oh, sure.
And then I'll figure out.
I figured mine, if I did it right.
Do you think?
Should be Lily, is that?
If you want to move me to the
Probably the password is up here. Why don't we try? Because I can deal with you a little quicker because I have a few more steps than Wayne. So I didn't get, you're further along the process, that's all it is. Yeah, but if you need to go to the restroom, it's gonna take you a minute.
I just like to go.
I'm gonna start at my computer and you're log on to your account and set up the forward, and if your password doesn't work, okay, an alternative.
I'll be back in a minute.
That's fine.
So much that he just needs a.
Don't rush.
No, right. So you're free to do whatever you need to do. If you need to, yeah, just leave me here.
Michael, I have a question, but I don't want to ask it if it's going to disrupt you right now. One of the things that would be nice is to have some page at a university website, Department of Technology, or something like that, where we could like direct people to it from our website and from the Denver Lions. I saw yours. They prominently said Rocky Mountain Lions Eye Institute Foundation, rather than having to read the fine print. And so that would be something I would like to talk to you about, if it would be possible to do something like that with the web. Right. If you look at our website, I don't want you to do that. It would be nice for me to have a link on it that shows that says, you at the Rocky Mountain Lions, and you click on it, and then you go to something that the university has that looks like Rocky Mountain Lions Institute Foundation, or not Foundation, but Institute. So anyway, I would like to talk to you about that.
Okay. That's probably a question.
Okay.
That was nice of our county commissioners. You got the money.
You got to put your club. Okay, so a lot of folks also have a foundation associated with the club. So this is your actual club, which is a 501c4.
Could apply for this grant.
Okay, yeah.
Which is.
Sent a message to Brad Sheehan,
So that means that's.
asked him if I could get one of his
Because
titles.
it's federal money
Federal
to the
and
county.
state and
I know they're a personal
state and county,
gift.
and the county decided to
So,
give them grants. It never occurred.
But I am getting 25 of his pins coming
And how
from
many strings
LCI.
are attached to it?
Huh?
How many strings are attached to it from you?
Oh, gee, I had to get a special letter from Lion.
Yeah, they're in New Zealand right now.
You're watching right now. I think you figured out that we've gone to a break, and I'll just continue running, and we should be back going in about 5 minutes.
Ring, ring, hello. You'll see all my other handiwork. Yes, it's great. Yeah, right.
Yeah, they, you know, I did purchase a virtual convention,
What, there's no internet? I mean,
Montreal convention, so I did see all the plenary sessions. Oh, yeah.
okay, I'll teach you something right now.
And then I did get the sessions for the governor-elect.
Yeah, I'm Christmas.
So what's the outside? He
Well,
texted me and he called me.
RMLEIF.org is our website.
What's that?
I'm on the.
Oh, yeah, I know.
You must-
Congratulations for your Melvin Jones.
And you're us.
Down right here.
He's telling everybody what's with the music and all this kind of stuff, and that's.
So this is RMLEIF, Rocky Mountain Lions Institute Foundation.
He's not you on TV, everybody else is engaged, they're just sitting there.
I don't think you knew that, okay, but you do now, it's a great way to do it. And so, at this point, if you know, your Craig, I'm sorry, your last name, Craig Thompson.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. On this trip, I'm with my brother for as much as I can. Craig Thompson. And so, I have the last name correct. Is it right? So it's always Craig down here's the park.
Oh.
If you don't know it, we'll be looking for microphone. Okay, so let's find out. I'm gonna try it one more time in case you did it wrong. I think Joe asked for it.
So, I'm in the pink dining. Who are the various leaders?
Sally?
Sally's a pink.
Yeah, you're
John
invited.
is, Dave is,
Yeah.
How many tour groups are we having?
There's two.
Three? Well, I don't. I'm
Somebody donate three.
Steve, two.
Well, what I did do also, but I also was looking at.
Jack Beckfield.
Dinner, there's four.
Need to ask how we really.
Just in order.
Was that one of
I guess
Courtney's?
the yellow. He's on the phone.
But anyway, she gave a lot of.
Wasn't sure.
Jack Beckfield gave my wife.
They'll be too confusing.
Yeah,
The jacket.
that's a nice one.
Yeah,
When we
it
get
is.
further.
Unfortunately, as a data, we should
Dr.
Well, that's fine. I'm gonna have to ask Courtney. He says he has one left. He was gonna give it to me.
So
dug it out yet.
instead of having one group tour here.
I think that was his year.
Trade places. we'll all-
2010, 11, yeah.
We'll still divide into groups. So we're not encouraged.
Shouldn't matter. That shouldn't matter.
Third time, I'm waiting for Michael, our main guy. Okay, stand up again, it's time to do the oh-ha. You guys gotta do it. Sitting on the posterior.
You aren't gonna make us the hose, are you?
Hey, you ready? Greg. You wait long. Come on. Oh, you forgot. You ready?
Ha, 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 ho, 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 ha, ho, 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 ha, ha, ho, ha, ho, ha.
And we are awesome!
Michael, as soon as you're ready, we're ready for you.
Betsy, I guess this is gonna be in as well.
Uh-oh, you're in the book. I thought the book was already.
No, I haven't had that.
So I think I'll play the video from Dr. Mandava first, and then I'll go ahead and talk for a little bit.
I don't know what's going on.
I'll play the video from Dr. Mandava first, and then I'll talk. But Maria and Lainey are setting up lunch. They're kind enough to order for us, so we'll have that when the time is right. But let's take a look. All right, so I think most of you have met Dr. Mandava, is that right? If you have not, okay, well, Dr. Mandava couldn't be here today. He has a family obligation, but he wanted me to personally thank the Lions for everything that you guys have done over the years, your commitment and determination to support the Eye Institute. And he also just wanted me to thank you for taking the time to come here today, and he is sorry that he can't join us in person. But he did record a video yesterday, a little message for us where he's going to talk a little bit about his role and what the strengths of the department are and what he has been able to accomplish with the Lions support. So let me get that going and just make sure I have the volume going and everything. Okay, that's a little too high, right? Should I lower that? Okay, let me try it again.
Welcome to the Rocky Mountain Lions Eye Institute on the Angels Medical Campus.
Is that good?
Okay. We're so grateful that you could have your Rocky Mountain Lions Eye Institute Foundation meeting here And I think it's only fitting that you're getting a chance that, for those of you that are new to the foundation, you're getting a chance to see what amazing work, the amazing work of the Rocky Mountain Lions Institute Foundation, the Lions of Colorado and Wyoming, what their work has done to get us to where we are today as a program. My name is Naresh Mandava. I'm the chair of the Department of Ophthalmology, and I've been with the program, the Rocky Mountain Lions Eye Institute, Department of Ophthalmology since 1998. As all of you may know, we opened the doors of the Eye Institute in May of 2001, and I was fortunate to have been on faculty at that point almost 3 years, and was so excited, have been excited for the last 20 years to be part of this wonderful organization. I am a retina specialist and take care of patients with blinding retinal diseases. I also have been fortunate to work with research teams that are developing technologies and research ideas that may change the fate of our patients with blinding eye diseases. You know, I think I should start out with talking about what, impact, and certainly the Lions of Colorado and Wyoming have had an amazing impact on our ability to build everything that you're going to see today. Not just the bricks and mortar of the 5-story building that you're going to look at today, the Rocky Mountain Lions Institute, but also the infrastructure that's been built to allow us to meet all of our important missions, including the cutting-edge clinical mission, the educational mission, as well as the research mission. I'll first start out with the clinical mission, because that's probably the easiest to understand. If you can imagine, if you think about the map of where we sit here in Aurora, Colorado, we're the only academic eye center from Canada to Mexico and Salt Lake City to Kansas City or St. Louis. So that gives us not just a great opportunity, but a responsibility to provide complex eye care for patients in that region. For example, if you look at such specialties such as neuro-ophthalmology, we just hired our 4th neuro-ophthalmologist, and there are only 4 or 5 in the whole state of Colorado, and there are none in the state of Wyoming. So you can think about the impact that has and the importance of recruiting top talent to our regions to provide the best care for patients and for the most complex diseases. And that center doesn't exist on the East Coast or the West Coast or Chicago, where there are multiple providers and multiple institutes of excellence. The Rocky Mountain Lions Eye Institute is really the home of that kind of care. Because of that clinical, the clinical opportunity to build strong programs in every subspecialty in ophthalmology, we've been able to recruit top talent from around the world, which has really only made the program better and provided cutting-edge care, but also has let our research mission and our educational missions blossom. If you think about the importance of vision to people, blinding eye diseases affect so many young and old. And with our aging population, with over 11,000 Americans turning 65 every day in the United States, we have a tremendous demand for our services and a tremendous burden in our society in terms of the suffering of people that are losing their vision. It affects their families, affects their ability to provide for their loved ones, affects their ability in the prime of their lives to see their loved ones or to have independence. And we fight for them to retain the opportunity and the possibility of performing those tasks, saving their loved ones and providing for their families and living some independence. And so as our population in this country grows, we have this tremendous need. We have over 6,000 eye surgeons, a deficit of over 6,000 eye surgeons in the United States by the year 2025, which is 2.5 years from now. We only train 450 eye surgeons in the United States every year. We know that that's an important part of our mission. The Rocky Mountain Lions Eye Institute, at any given time, we're training over 30 eye surgeons whether as in their residency program or subspecialty programs. So it's a big number and it's a big responsibility for a huge geographic area in the United States. And our program, our educational programs at here are second to none. The product that is produced in terms of high quality physicians with high ethical standards, high surgical and clinical standards, and amazing advocacy for the patient. That is taught here in the Department of Ophthalmology, and we're exceptionally proud of that. And we wouldn't be able to do it without this huge clinical infrastructure that we built, all of the teachers that we brought in, all the top scientists and clinicians, wouldn't have been able to do it. And then adding to that, if we think about the research mission, which is very important in the three components of the mission of any academic eye center, research has become a critical component of the impact that we can make in not just our region, but throughout the world. There are many exciting technologies that are in development in the department, and a few that have actually reached patients, including the Cohoe Dual Blade, which is a glaucoma device, which has had over 100,000 patients in the world receive surgical treatment using this device that was developed in this very building. And we're exceptionally proud of Dr. Cohoe, who developed the device from her faculty with our support in the department. And that's another dimension I think that gets lost in terms of the things that we can do. We bring top talent together, top clinicians and researchers working side by side, developing innovative new technologies to take care for patients. And we have the infrastructure for it. We're known as one of the top places in the world for innovation in ophthalmic devices. We do this through research teams that have been highly successful, including our stem cell transplantation team, which has amazing technology that has the promise of providing vision to those that have lost vision from diseases like macular degeneration. We have a new artificial intelligence program here, led by Dr. Kapati Kramer, who's the head of imaging artificial intelligence at Harvard Mass General, who decided to join us here at the University of Colorado Department of Ophthalmology here in the Eye Institute. And she is an exceptional individual who will bring much innovation to our field. So without putting all of this together, if we think about the top talent that's being developed here, whether it's in the clinical realm, in the operating room, or in the clinics, or in research, that's what makes what we do a scalable thing, right? We can provide care here in the Retinal Alliance Eye Institute, as well as our 4 satellite offices in the region. We take care of over 130,000 patient visits a year, and that's great, and we're so proud of that. We also provide all the care for veterans at the VA hospital, as well as the Denver Health Medical Center, which is our city and county safety net hospital, caring for our city employees, as well as trouble patients from around many states, as well as the Children's Hospital, where we have 10 eye care providers. We just hired our 11th, and we're super proud that we have one of the largest pediatric eye programs in the country. Cutting edge care for patients from at least 7 states each and every day, whether it's a child from Montana or North Dakota, South Dakota, Wyoming, Nebraska, Kansas, New Mexico. You see kids from all of these places each and every day, and it wouldn't be possible without the investments, original investments of the Lions and the development of the Rocky Mountain Lions Eye Institute. I would say we have benefited greatly from a tremendous interaction with the eye care providers in the 5 or 6 neighboring states as well. Many of them have trained here to be eye surgeons, and many of them have not. And regardless, they see us as a resource where they can send complex patients with complex issues that need our escalated care, and we're really happy to have those relationships and to be that resource for them. And to continue to maintain those relationships so we can provide the most care for those patients. And if you think about it, I said earlier, we were over 6,000 eye surgeons in the United States. We don't see ourselves as competitive with any group, whether it's corporate groups or private groups. And we feel like the important thing is that we collaborate, we work together to provide the best care for a patient, and that we develop new technologies so that patients can get better care, and those technologies hopefully can be applied throughout the world so that patients can benefit everywhere. And also, as part of these partnerships are critical to take care of the patients in this region of the United States, without which we would not have the most cutting-edge care possible. So we need to be the leaders of that in our region, and we need to set the example to be great collaborators and a resource to our colleagues in the region, many of whom we have trained. So the scalable impact, going back to that, that the programs that all of us have built together, that is what brings everything together here, and you're going to see pieces of that today. I wanted to just thank John Harper and all of the Lions that I've had the opportunity to work with over the past 24 years, and certainly in the past 18 years as chair. You guys have been amazing partners and friends, and together we built an exceptional place. We've had many other investors over the years, including Sue Rogers, who's invested a great deal of her resources in moving all of our missions forward. And she recognizes that the Lions were instrumental in building what we have, and the Lions have been extremely supportive, even in the most recent years, in funding some of our recent expansions with multi-billion-dollar commitments. Some of these expansions have cost $30, $40 million of investment. So we've had a lot of friends and grateful patients who have invested heavily in our programs, and without partnership of all of us working together, Lions and other donors, we would not be able to provide all of this great care that we can today for our patients. So I hope you enjoy your visit here, and I'd love to meet you live at some point when my family circumstances allow me to be with you next time, I'm sure. We're again so grateful for the Lions' great contributions over the years, and I hope you enjoy your visit and that you come again soon to visit us. Thank you so much, and have a great day.
All right.
Okay.
Does this one down?
Yeah, I think we can get it this one down.
And we can see you better.
Okay, or I can step off to the side. Doesn't matter. I can step off to the side a little bit too.
Well, a lot of people can't see that. Yeah, there we
Is that better?
All right, good.
Okay. Okay, good. Yeah, again, sorry that Dr. Mandava couldn't join us in person, but I'm glad he was able to say a few words to us in that format. But anyways, let me just introduce myself to you. I know I've met many of you this morning, and I've met many of you previous times you've come to the Eye Institute, but I'm Michael Tortoro. I work for the university in the...
Michael, can you talk louder, or do we have a microphone?
I'll talk louder. I'll try to talk louder. How about that? Is this better? Good level? All right. So I work in the advancement office here at the Anschutz Medical Campus. And what that means is I work with our philanthropic supporters and our faculty members to talk about areas that they might support to advance our clinical and research missions. And it's a very interesting job. I'm always learning about science, what's going on in medical research, what's going on in patient care, but also getting to meet people like you who have the motivation and inclination to do something to advance medical research. So it's an honor to work with you all. I've been with the university for about 4 years. I know many of you know my predecessor, Ellen Goldberg. Ellen is still with the university. She's just taken on a different role where she is kind of covering the campus on a general basis and working with supporters in a variety of different departments. Meanwhile, I am specializing in the Eye Institute. So before working here, I worked at Doheny Eye Institute in Los Angeles, which is part of the UCLA health system. So I've been working with ophthalmologists and supporters of vision research for a number of years. I'm really happy to be able to kind of specialize in that again here at CU. So thank you all for being here today and for everything that you all do for the Lions and for the Rocky Mountain Lions Eye Institute. You all are an indispensable partner, and I say that because you are not just one of the most important donors to the Eye Institute, but for the campus as a whole. The building that we are in wouldn't exist without the Lions. So I think you all should have, no pun intended, some pride in what you're doing with the Lions and what you've been able to accomplish here. The Lions, some of what I'm saying I'll be duplicating John's comments or Dr. Mondava's comments in his video, but the Lions raised about half of the cost of the original Rocky Mountain Lions Eye Institute building when it was constructed back in 2006, and then have supported expansion since then, and so have supported equipment purchases in the meanwhile as well. So the growth of the Institute has really been facilitated by the Lions. So what kind of support does the Eye Institute need? First, I'll go back and just say that the Eye Institute is part of an academic medical center, the CU Anschutz Medical Campus. And what an academic medical center is, it's comprised of 3 parts: patient care, medical research, and education. So that's training medical students, residents, and fellows. So the campus has a variety of educational programs for medicine, pharmacy, nursing, and then across the board, clinical care programs from ophthalmology to dermatology, whatever you can think of. There's care programs at the Anschutz Medical Campus, and then research programs that correspond. And that research can be basic science research. A lot of that's going on in the labs that we'll see later today. That's to understand the molecular basis of disease, but also translational research, which is looking for ways to apply the learnings from basic science research to patient benefit, to get new pharmaceutical and medical device products out there so they can extend the lifespan and help cure diseases. So what kinds of support does this Eye Institute need philanthropically to thrive? So research support, we're going to hear from Mark Petrash later this afternoon. Mark is the director of research for the Eye Institute, and he'll talk to us a little bit more about that. One of the prominent examples, not just for ophthalmology, but for the campus as a whole, is a program called CellSight. I know some of you know about the program. Some of you will be learning about it today, but it's just a really ambitious program with a goal of restoring vision for people with age-related macular degeneration. It relies on philanthropy. It's really built on private support. The educational programs, I mentioned residency education and fellowship programs, those are supported with philanthropy, and philanthropic support allows the department to add additional residency spots or additional fellows to the programs. Endowed chairs are really important parts of the organization because they allow us to recruit top physicians to Colorado. They allow us to retain other physicians who are very attractive to other organizations who might try to recruit them to their institute. So those endowed chairs provide funding in perpetuity for physicians. It gives them the financial flexibility to pursue new ideas, do additional research, to lessen their clinical load. Really important. And then infrastructure. That's support for equipment in the labs and for capital expenditures like buildings, adding on to buildings. And there's huge needs for infrastructure, but there's not that many donors. And that's where the Lions come in. That's where the Lions are, as I said earlier, the indispensable partner to the Eye Institute. Yeah.
So that it's hard on the previous slide to get funding for infrastructure. I'm a little surprised because I've heard, my wife is with a nonprofit, which everybody in this room probably knows about, a KidSite program. And she's always saying, I can get equipment, I can get grants for that, but I can't get operating grants.
Yeah.
Is it different here?
I think the difference might be who the donors are. So we rely on grateful patients who very typically have personal relationships with physicians. So when they're having conversations with people in our office, the advancement office that is, about what they want to do, it's usually something that is very important to that faculty member, whether it's a research program that they're leading or support through like an endowed fund, an endowed chair. So in the grateful patient model, the fundraising which we rely on here, we get a lot of support for research. People want to give to an area that has personally impacted them or a loved one, whether that's macular degeneration or prostate cancer, any type of example you can name. But those patients aren't always the best kind of donors for capital expenses.
You're not going to foundations.
Yeah, we go to foundations.
That's where my wife would.
Yeah.
She said, I can't get
Private foundations are more inclined towards capital expenses than individuals are. I will say that. And then, but we work heavily with individuals. And it's just the I would say one thing that's very predominant is we as a campus do really well raising funds for research, raising funds for people, that is those endowed chairs, things to support talent. We don't do as well in capital and equipment purchases and things like that from that population of donors.
How many endowed chairs do you have?
In the Eye Institute, we have 7. Yeah.
7?
Yeah. Let's see. Let's go on. Okay, so I want to talk about the Lions' special role. The Lions have supported infrastructure, namely support for capital expenses and equipment purchases. The Lions raised $6 million to help build the Institute with the university commitment that helped finish that and equip the building. The total cost was about $12 million. Again, half of which was provided by the Rocky Mountain Lions Eye Institute Foundation. And then again, in 2015, the Eye Institute was expanded to meet the increasing need for patient services. 10 of the 30 new clinical treatment units were furnished and equipped by the Lions at a cost of about $1.3 million. So you guys have helped expand the facility and make sure that it has the equipment that it needs. And then we're able to expand the clinical operations and open new clinical lanes in the 4th floor, which we'll see later. And then again, in 2021, we equipped 5 additional exam rooms. So not only has the partnership allowed the very building to exist, but it has enabled growth in a number of other ways. because of the Lions' contributions to the Eye Institute, we've been able to increase the number of physicians, thereby increasing the number of patients cared for. So a bigger facility allows us to have more clinical space. More clinical space, we can bring in more faculty, we can care for more patients. So if you think of like the infrastructure, the actual physical building leads to all this kind of exponential growth for the Eye Institute. And that's a lot of what Dr. Mandava was talking about. So we bring in more faculty, they have more research, they get more grants from like the NIH, they have more collaborations with industry. That increases revenues to the department's able to invest that in research, invest that in recruiting and retaining faculty. So, and then we have more patients, then there's more opportunities for those patients to become involved philanthropically. If they become more involved philanthropically, then there's more research. So it kind of leads to this circle where it's like a spiral, but in a good way, where there's more and more opportunities as the space is developed. A prominent example is one Dr. Mandava mentioned. That's the gift from Sue Anschutz Rogers. So that gift could only have happened once the entire infrastructure for the Eye Institute was built. With that foundation, the foundation that you all have built through all the capital infrastructure support, Mrs. Anschutz Rogers was able to endow several programs and kind of and help in that way as well. So the Lions investment in infrastructure means the Eye Institute can deploy its resources elsewhere. I think that's a really critical point for you all, because the Lions have done so much for the building that reduces the burden on the Department of Ophthalmology, Dr. Mandava and his leadership team to use their revenues to buy equipment. So they can use those revenues to support recruiting top talent and making sure the talent has the resources to pursue what they want to do in the lab, in physician education, and so on. So they're able to take resources that they would have had to apply to capital and use it elsewhere to help develop the Eye Institute. Let's see. I can go through a few milestones, but basically I think it's some of it which will be familiar to you guys. 2006 moved from Colorado Boulevard to Aurora and built the Eye Institute, thanks to the Lions. In 2013, we endowed 2 faculty chairs. Those were the first endowed faculty chairs. A third in 2015. In 2015 also, we established the Ocular Stem Cell Program, which went on to be named CellSite. So that was established with philanthropic support from a number of donors back in 2015. 2015 also saw the building expansion. Again, the Lions played a big part in that. 2016, with a generous gift from Frederick Hamilton, established the Macular Diagnostics Center, which is dedicated to improving treatments for people with age-related macular degeneration. A couple years later, 2017, we renovated 2,000 square feet of lab space in one of the research buildings. That's we'll see that later. And that allowed, at the same time, we recruited Dr. Valeria Canto-Soler, who now leads the CellSite macular degeneration research program. 2018, the gift from Sue Anschutz Rogers was received, and that supported a number of programs across the Eye Institute. 2020, the Lions made another very generous contribution to new equipment for the Eye Institute's renovated space. And then just last year, we received significant funding from an anonymous donor, which has allowed us to recruit a faculty member in artificial intelligence and machine learning from Harvard University. And she's now leading a program that is going to tie into a lot of different research and clinical care efforts to improve diagnostics, hopefully lead to some different avenues of diagnosing eye disease at earlier phases. That way people can have targeted treatments earlier as their disease progresses. So that's another huge gift supported by philanthropy. Yes, Steve?
Is that another example of an endowed chair?
It's an example of an endowed chair. and an example of having just another fund. So it's a gift that has two parts. One part's the endowed chair, and that is basically a necessary thing to have when you're talking about recruiting somebody from a top university who has a whole bunch of different options on their career path. So having that funding there is really critical from drawing somebody away from a top university, because it gives them resources that they can use every year in perpetuity, because that's the way an endowment works. It provides steady funding annually. And then there's also, as another part of that gift, there's a startup fund of several $1 million that is just going to buy, the equipment, provide salary support for a team that's going to be working under Dr. Kalpathy Kramer's direction. So it's all these startup expenses that are related to building that program.
What is the typical cost of an endowed chair?
$2 million.
Okay.
$2 million. Yeah, drop in the bucket. We are we're so fortunate on this campus to have donors who have done really well in career and wealth, and they're far more common than you'd think. Because I know in my previous job, just the idea of getting these endowments was very kind of out of sight for a lot of the faculty members. But here we've been just so fortunate to have grateful patients and that are able to use their experience and be inspired by the care that they've received, and also have this tremendous resources and wealth and able to be willing to do that. So
Do you have a plan for more endowed chairs?
yeah, I think if you talk to a department chair like Dr. Mandava and you ask them, like, how many endowed chairs do you need, and they will always say one more than I have. So there's an insatiable appetite for endowment funding. It's just it like I said, it helps keep people here. So if you have a young faculty member who is really developing in their career, and some other university, some other academic medical center is going to want to take them eventually. So having the endowed chair to potentially offer to them keeps talent here, but it also recruits, like in the example that I just talked about with this faculty member who's leading the artificial intelligence program. It helps bring people here when you have a slew of competitors for that person's talent. So they're really important in a university setting, especially academic medicine. So I just want to, again, reiterate that the Lions have been absolutely indispensable to the development of the Eye Institute over the entire time that it's been at the Anschutz Medical Campus. This building wouldn't be here without the Lions, but so much of the other programming that the Lions haven't directly funded wouldn't exist in the same way without the Lions. This commitment has been long-term. So many different members of your organization. I know John knows the history so well, but I couldn't even guess how many different members have been involved in some way with the support that comes through the Lions to the Eye Institute. And just I wanted to thank you and acknowledge the determination of the leadership to set these ambitious goals over the years and then make sure that they've been fulfilled. John, you mentioned earlier that it took 10 years to raise $6 million for the building, but you did it. In 10 years, there's a lot of people's priorities and life's changed, but you all stuck with it for 10 years and reached that goal. And it's absolutely a phenomenal thing. And a campus like this just wouldn't be the same without groups like yours. So thank you all. Yeah.
May I ask you about the Low Vision Center, Dr. Hansen's group?
Mm-hmm.
How have they moved forward?
Do you mean in terms of how they've grown?
Well, yeah, I remember she was the only one.
Yeah, so I think it's a group of 3 now. So they've grown. We'll take a look at their space on the first floor later. I don't know that much about how the program has grown. I just know that it's more than just Dr. Hansen now. It's a larger group. And they've, because that when the Eye Institute expands, they're able to have better space, more patients. It's just becomes this kind of magnetic effect where the programs grow, and they grow at like an exponential rate because of all the support that's coming here.
They have to have a whole lot of equipment too, because
Yeah.
it isn't someone who is blind, but who may be coming there.
Yeah. So they have to have a physical space where they can do that kind of rehabilitation type training. They have to be able to walk around and provide instruction to low vision patients. There's a lot of space required for that. Yeah.
Michael.
Yeah.
Dr. Mandava sort of referenced that we've seen $30 to $40 million in expansions. Was he talking the infrastructure of the building, or was he talking some of these other gifts of philanthropy?
I think he was talking about the building's infrastructure. Is that what you gathered, John? Yeah. So the growth of the building back in 2014, 15, that I think that's what he was referring to. Yeah.
And my second question was, how large was this gift from Mrs. Andrews Rogers, and what does it encompass here?
It encompasses a lot. So one of the main parts of it is it funded an endowed chair that Dr. Mandava holds. So a leadership chair, which is going to be absolutely critical for recruiting somebody who is on Dr. Mandava's stature to replace him when he ever leaves, which I hope is never, but we all know the reality that people eventually retire. So that was a big component of it. Another component went to the cell site program and support for to create just a general endowment, not for a particular one person, but for an endowment for the Department of Ophthalmology as a whole, so that there's these resources that Dr. Mandava can pull from. For example, Dr. Mandava has a new research program that a faculty wants to start up that he deems critical. He can take from that endowment and apply it to this faculty member's developing research. So it gives flexibility to leadership here to go in a direction based on what the current conditions are. It's that kind of flexible funding. He can use it for capital expansion. He can use it for research. He can use it to support salaries and a number of different things.
What was the got any rough idea on the magnitude of that original gift?
Yeah, I'll tell you later. It's very significant. Yeah, it's a significant amount of funding that is, people in our industry and fundraising say transformative. It was transformative in the way that the Lions' initial gift to start this building was. It makes a huge impact and will live on forever. So it was a really really wonderful gift and wonderful opportunity for the campus to have that kind of support.
In fact,
I understand it's over a period of time too. It's not like she gave a lump sum, wrote you a check.
That's a good point, John. Glad you mentioned that. It's a pledge paid out over a number of years. Yeah.
You were referring to a timeline of some milestones.
Yeah.
Could we get a copy of that?
Yeah, I can even flesh it out further because it's incomplete, but there would be more that I could add to it and share with the group.
That's a useful thing when we're talking about the other Lions clubs.
Yeah.
They can get a sense of how this investment would pay off.
I can put some more time into that because right now what I had was milestones that have been impacted by philanthropic support.
That's what I'm interested in.
So I can do that, but I can also include other things like the Dr. Mandava always talks about the Dr. Cahook's dual blade glaucoma surgical device. So I'd love to put stuff like that in there as well because that's really important.
And one more question I wanted to ask. has to do with you, or you said you were associated with the eye clinic at UCLA?
I was, yeah, it was a previous
So
job.
What do you think about them now joining the Big Ten?
Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. I gotta say I don't follow college sports. So I'm only like aware of that through ESPN headlines. Seems like a big deal though. Seems like it degrades the rest of the conference. Like the University of Colorado wanted for so long to become part of the Pac-10, Pac-12, and now with some of the big players leaving, it's like it's not quite as big of a deal.
Which college did you go to?
I went to the University of California, Irvine, which is, if you don't know where Irvine is, it's in Orange County, south of Los Angeles.
So how does their eye center compare to our eye center?
The UCLA Eye Center or UC Irvine's Eye Center? I don't know that much about Irvine's. So it's Doheny Eye Institute, which had for the longest time been a part of University of Southern California. Right about the time I started working there, about 10 years ago, they transitioned from being affiliated with USC to its rival UCLA, which you can imagine what kind of PR we were dealing with during that time. It was a lot. They had some really interesting programs, and then things because some of the faculty stayed with USC and some came over to UCLA. So I think there was a little bit of discontinuity in the program, but they have a pretty robust program there. They have basically all the subspecialties that you'd think a University of Colorado has. And now they're combined with another department at UCLA, which is the Jules Stein Eye Institute. So there's two eye institutes under the Department of Ophthalmology for UCLA. They kind of have a geographic breakdown where Doheny Eye Institute is serving patients on the east side of the city, Jules Stein on the west side of the city, and then faculty do research under the Department of Ophthalmology. It's a little confusing.
Well, because it's in California, I'm assuming they probably have significant research dollars.
Yeah, they've both done really well. Both eye institutes independently and now combined. They're both named for very wealthy people. Doheny being, the Doheny oil family from the early 20th century, and Jules Stein being, one of the first like mega agents in Hollywood for Hollywood talent. So they've done really well with philanthropy and all sorts of things. This department, and I'm not just saying that because I work here, the trajectory of the University of Colorado, the Department of Ophthalmology, the Rocky Mountain Lions Eye Institute is more impressive to me. There's so many people working here, and then the satellite centers, the amount of research going on here, the unique opportunity that is provided by the cell site program, which we'll hear about later. It's really special here. And I think just about, I think for the Eye Institute, kind of doing a little bit of evangelizing in the community to make sure that other care providers know about the resources here, the equipment and expertise that's in this building and what it can mean for their patients to get those referrals over here. I don't know that much about the process though. If you ever hear, however, of somebody who needs specialized eye care, you can just start with me. If you want to make a referral here, you can start with me. And what I would do is I would let Dr. Mondava know. We also have a team in our office that helps expedite appointments and helps provide resources for people who need to figure out what their next step is with their healthcare. If they are interested in seeing a specialist on the Anschutz Medical Campus, that offer to you goes not just for ophthalmology, but for any healthcare on the medical campus. If you or friends or family ever have questions, want to learn about a clinical program, you think you might need a second opinion, a referral to a specialist here on campus, any department, feel free to contact me and I could at least provide you with some resources on what you might want to do next.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's good to know.
Something that I would chip in, mainly for the benefit of new people, is that when this was first built, it's that people in Aurora or Denver, it was encouraged, that this be sense to come clear over here if you're just gonna get prescription, for your eyeglasses. You bet at home. And then I shared with Michael, because I don't think he was aware before, that within our structure, no matter where somebody needs to go, is that if the Lions Club asks us for travel money, as we will provide travel money. It doesn't have to be here. In a lot of cases, that's what the request is, if somebody needs that second opinion, but coming to Denver is expensive, so there's a $500 to the club automatic, no questions asked, to use for their travel money for that patient to go to an ophthalmologist. And I'm a little bit.
Explain to them how they get that $500.
She's gonna cover that.
Okay, very good. Anyhow, I'm a little pig-headed that I want to see an ophthalmologist. I think if they're sick enough that they need help, they should be seeing a physician doctor. So,
Yeah.
I kind of lean that direction.
You know that in Colorado, they passed a law this year that allows optometrists to do a number of things that ophthalmologists previously were doing. Probably with a few objections from people inside this building, I guess.
I don't know that much about it, but I imagine that you're right, Steve.
Another takeaway that I was in option on, but you heard from Dr. Mondava, you've heard it now from Michael. This place, to the people that work here, is the Rocky Mountain Lions Eye Institute. That's the way they all refer to it. They don't talk about it being the Sue-Ann Shoots or whatever.
Yeah, the distinction I would make, because I get questions about it, is the building is the Eye Institute. This is the Eye Institute. So when I tell my colleagues like where I'm going to be working today, I say I'm going over to the Eye Institute to work in my office over there. Anyways, the Sue-Ann Shoots Rogers Eye Center is programs. So the research would be under that Sue-Ann Shoots Rogers Eye Center, collaborations with other departments. For example, we have ophthalmologists that work in ocular oncology. So they're part of, they need resources like to diagnose and treat cancer of the eye. That's a collaboration with other departments. So that's under the Sue-Ann Shoots Rogers scaffold. The building is the Eye Institute. Yeah.
Are you familiar with what goes on at the Denver County Hospital that we're associated with?
I don't know what goes on there other than our faculty, some of our faculty provide care over there.
Is it for the indigent people?
Yeah, it's a social safety net hospital. So our faculty here in the Department of Ophthalmology faculty, they see patients at the Eye Institute, but some of them will also see patients at Children's Hospital. Some of them will also see patients at the VA, Denver Health. Not all of them. There's just, a handful that fall under, both or one or more. Yeah.
When you get shot, take them there. They're a level 5 trauma center, and they're very good.
Yeah. Yeah. John, I have comments from Rachel. Do you want me to give those now since I'm here, or do you want me to wait?
Could I ask a question first? Or maybe more than
Yeah, go ahead.
Dr. Madava uses the term eye surgeon quite a bit.
Eye surgeon?
Eye surgeon, yes. Is that a synonym for ophthalmologist, or is that a subcategory of the ophthalmologists of the world, or what? Because I hear it a lot, and it's more self-descriptive than the term ophthalmology to most people.
Yeah.
Who aren't going to know the word very well.
I don't think that they're synonyms. I think that if you have a Venn diagram, there would be some overlap there. So Dr. Mandava is an ophthalmologist who's also an eye surgeon, but he's not an eye surgeon every day. If he's just in the clinic diagnosing problems or doing, inpatient care. So I guess
He uses that term a lot.
all eye surgeons are ophthalmologists, but not all ophthalmologists are eye surgeons. It depends on what they're doing, I suppose. Yeah.
Michael, that was great.
You're welcome. It was my pleasure. Rachel Whittle couldn't be here today. Some of you have met her, some of you have not. She's the communications director for the Eye Institute, but she asked that I, thank you all for what you're doing, and also share some of her comments with you guys. So as I said, she's the communications program manager. She is developing the overall strategic communications for the department. And what that means is elevating the brand for the Eye Institute and doing it through a number of different channels, whether that's blogs on the website, newsletters that go out via email to donors, faculty members, students, and social media. So, just copied a couple recent stories that are on the CU Anschutz newsroom. If you are interested in just finding what's new, what are the latest news stories, there's a couple of very simple ways of following the stories. You can always do it on social media. So I think the next slide will have information about that. You can go to the Eye Institute's website, and then there's a news section, and I think it will post up the last 6 articles that Rachel has written and posted. So these are a couple of them, one about residents and fellows, and then another one actually about Dr. Hansen's program. I don't know if you saw this story, Sally, but it's a really cool story about this woman who had low vision and always wanted to drive. With the help of Dr. Hansen, she got her vision and adaptive abilities through other technologies up to a level where she got a driver's license at age 52. So Rachel works with faculty members to find really cool stories like that about successful outcomes from surgery, from care here, and post them on the website. So to share the news about what's going on here. So website, emails, design, the quarterly newsletter, which I believe the Lions should be on the email list for that. And if anybody isn't, we can correct that. So that's just a great way of getting updates. If you ever want to share a news story with people in your network, feel free to do that. These are meant to be public facing, so you can always share an email, like a newsletter that you get from Rachel. But if you see something online like this, feel free to share it. That's one way that I keep in touch with donors. If I know they have a particular interest in glaucoma research and Rachel posts a story about a glaucoma faculty member, I'll take a link and put it in an email and say something like, hey, I thought you'd be encouraged to read this news. That's just a great way of sharing things with people. And then the handle at CU Eye Center is the same across different social media platforms. It's Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. So there you'll be able to see all of the latest stories. That's another good way of following. That's what Rachel wanted to share with you all today. And I know that we have questions about how to incorporate the Lions into the Rachel's program, and that's something that we can continue to explore with her.
I appreciate, what she's doing, because the kind of stories she's putting out just weren't there before she was, or if they were, we didn't get to see them, and now they're there, and it's great patient stories.
Yeah.
And
I, just from being here for 4 years, I've never seen, I think what Rachel's done in the last 6 months has probably been about as much content about the Eye Institute as in the previous 3.5 years I worked here. So she has really dramatically increased the volume of stories about faculty and patients here.
And I think the last year's board is getting the newsletters, because I provided the information, to her to put you on the email list. But I gave her the new directory, and I got a response from her that she was going to have to make sure that everybody's email was correct. So she should all start getting her communications. And as you heard, use the enablers that we did when she first came on board. We kind of got the message that those were in-house for the house organ, where you call it, and that's no longer the case. It's that it's out there for us to use.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me get up here.
Thank you.
Of course. So Dr. Petrash will join us at 1.
Okay. The other thing we need to thank Michael for is he bought lunch.
There you go.
I don't know how the budget it came out of, but anyhow, Panera has prepared lunch for us. And
It's not Panera, but it is sandwiches.
Okay.
And yeah, that's back. There's a lot of varieties. So
Okay.
I think everybody should have something.
In the coolers, there's sodas and waters, if you haven't figured that out.
Work on something?
Yes.
The tour groups is only 2, so John's group is green and Zion's group is pink. So if you're a yellow, raise your hand if you're a yellow.
Yellow.
Okay. 2 of you need to go with John, Danielle and Steve, you're green for the tour. So over your yellow marker.
The tour's on the left, because I also have green.
Well,
Yeah, that's dinner.
Green is dinner.
Green is dinner.
Right is dinner, left is tour.
If you're yellow, you'll be with John on the tour. John on the tour.
Left, yeah.
The other 2 will be with Sal.
That's all I needed.
But that's not till 2 o'clock, right?
Huh?
That's not till 2 o'clock, right?
Yeah, but I wanted to make that change. Thank you.
Right.
So, go with Sally and John.
Took the tour a short time ago. I took the tour when we were here with Dr. Troy. And I have a back and hip injury that makes it uncomfortable to walk for very long ways. So I may
So that's why
keep
I
the
wrote
balance. I'll just take it here. Okay, we'll be ending this broadcast at this time. So if you're watching, you need to move to the next broadcast for the remainder of the orientation.
It is.